This takes a lot of effort, and people think these just fall out of the sky. They fall out of my holly jolly ass. That's where they come from. That was the least threatening thing you've ever seen in your life. So I'm going to move on. Sources of stress. Life chain, wrong page. Yes, sources of stress in everyday life. Daily hassles are everyday events that are stressful. Kana et al. Suggested that stress is related to more mundane events than the major life events put forward by Holmes and Ray. Example of these daily hassles, which they named as irritants, included having too many things to do, misplacing objects, and getting stuck in traffic. 100 adults completed a questionnaire each month which asked them to choose which hassles they had experienced that month from a list of 117. They then had to rate each hassle to show how severe it had been for them. This was repeated for 9 months. Certain hassles occurred more frequently than others, such as worrying about height, family health, and the rising cost of living. They found those with highest scores were more likely to have physical and psychological health problems. They also found that scores on an uplift scale, containing events that make you feel good, finishing a task, or getting on well with a partner, were negatively related to ill health. These events may reduce stress or protect us from it. Daily hassles are linked to stress and health with a stronger correlation than that found with the SRRS. Evaluations of the study show the weakness of correlational methods are relevant here. It isn't possible to establish a cause and effect relationship between the variables. Using questionnaires resulted in quantitative data, which is useful for making comparisons, but they don't allow participants to explain why certain experiences are stressful to them. So potentially useful data is actually missed. They also rely on honesty in order for the results to be valid. Participants may not be completely truthful about omitting mundane daily events that they find stressful, which is understandable. And they also rely on the participants' recall actually being accurate, which can be a problem. The workplace is also a massive source of stress, however. Unfortunately, most people need to work, unlike me, because I'm wearing sunglasses making YouTube videos. Yes. Some aspects of the work they do, where they work, or who they work with, actually become a source of stress. This is important because if a person is very stressed at work, this may cause them to become ill or develop diseases, which is the same thing. This is not only bad for them, but also for their employee, because they will end up taking more days off of work. Stress in the workplace comes from 5 key areas. Number 1, relationships at work. Our relationships with our bosses, colleagues, and customers may be stressful. For example, we might feel undervalued and that we lack support. Number 2, work pressures. Having too much work to do, and maybe even with strict deadlines. Deadlines isn't a word. Number 3, the physical environment. Where we work may be very noisy, overcrowded, or too hot or cold. Aren't we fussy? Also, our work may involve health risks on unsociable working hours. Number 4, stress linked to our role. Worrying about job security or our prospects for promotion, also the range of our responsibilities may be unclear and we may experience conflict, e.g., trying to please our boss or others around us who we are working with. And finally, number 5, lack of control. We may not have much influence over the type and amount of work we do, or where or when we do it. Check out the study by Marmot et al., which is on the next page, which I'm going to get to now. Now we get to the last 2 ones I can be bothered to do for the time being. Marmot et al. And Frankenhauser, 1975 and 1997. But yeah, Marmot et al. Study, over 7,000 civil employees working in London were surveyed. Information was obtained about their grade of employment, how much control they felt they had, how much support they felt they had, etc., etc. The results: when the medical histories of these employees were followed up 5 years later, those on lower employment grades who felt less control over their work and less social support were found to be more likely to have cardiovascular disorders. Participants on the lowest grade of employment were 4 times more likely to die of a heart attack than those on the highest grade. Conclusion: believing that you have little control over your work influences work stress and the development of illness may actually lead to illness and death and things. Yeah. Evaluation: the study only looked at white-collar work, office-type jobs, so the results may not apply to other jobs. Smoking was found to be common in these areas, and those who developed illnesses. So perhaps those who felt less control at work were more likely to smoke, and the smoking caused the heart problems rather than the stress. Other factors, example diet and exercise, may be linked to the job grade and could be causing illness rather than the perceived lack of control. The results, it took 7 attempts for me to say results, and I've still not finished. Come on, carry on. The research, it wasn't even Shut up, Gareth. The research is correlational, so it isn't possible to establish a cause and effect relationship between lack of control and illness. Data was obtained using questionnaires. This may have encouraged the participants to be more truthful than they would have been if interviewed. However, some people may have been concerned about admitting to experiencing stress at work in case it harmed their job prospects, which is understandable. And now we get to the last one I'm doing for the time being, Frankenhauser in 1975. Now, Frankenhauser studied two groups of workers at a sawmill. One group had the repetitive task of feeding logs into a machine all day. The job was very noisy and the workers were socially isolated. They didn't have much control over their work and the machine dictated how quickly they should feed the logs in. The other group had a different task which gave them more control and more social contact. Stress levels were measured by testing urine samples and blood pressure. That is a good weekend. Results: the workers who had minimal control and social contact had higher levels of stress hormones, adrenaline and noradrenaline, in their urine. Lovely. They were more likely to suffer from high blood pressure and stomach ulcers. Conclusion: a lack of control and social contact at work can obviously lead to stress. This was a field experiment, so it has high ecological validity. The findings are supported by Marmot's study, however. It doesn't take individual differences into account. Some individuals may just be more prone to stress. The results could have been affected by extraneous variables such as how much the workers were paid. Good God, this topic has a lot of things to talk about. Now we get to stress and individual differences. Now, Friedman and Rosenman in 1974 found kind of studied between type A personalities and illnesses. Now, type A personalities are people who are competitive and ambitious, and type B personalities are non-competitive, relaxed and easygoing. Approximately 3,000 39 to 59-year-old American males were assessed for their personality characteristics using interviews and observation. At the start of the study, none of them had CHD, coronary heart disease. Results: 8 years later, 257 of them had developed CHD. 70% of these were classed as type A personality. This included being workaholic, extremely competitive, hostile to others, and always in a rush. The other participants were classed as non-type A, and were less competitive and less impatient. These results were found even when the extraneous variables of weight and smoking were taken into account. Conclusion: type A personalities seem to be at a higher risk of stress-related illness, such as CHD. Evaluation: having only two personality types can seem a bit simplistic. The study doesn't prove that personality characteristics can cause stress and illness. It could be the other way around. For example, type A personalities may develop as a response to being under stress. Also, the sample used in the study was quite limited. Middle-aged male Americans. This means it was genderly and ageally biased. Temporally. No, wait. Ignore the last words I said. In addition, participants may not have been completely honest in their interviews, so that their characteristics appeared desirable to the researcher, which is social desirability bias. Ooh, big words. Later research also identified type C personalities, but I'm not going to go into this because we don't need to learn this for our AS course. Ignore type C personalities. Wrong way! Kobasse identified hardiness as an important individual difference. Kobasse described people as being hardy or non-hardy. There are three main characteristics of hardy personalities. Number 1! Hardy personalities are very involved in what they do and show a high level of commitment. This means that they work hard at relationship, jobs and other activities in life. Number 2! They view change in a positive rather than a negative way, seeing it as an opportunity for a challenge. Hardy personalities enjoy a challenge and see it as an opportunity to develop themselves. And number 3, they have a strong feeling of control over their life and what happens to them. This is known as having an internal locus of control. In comparison, non-hardy personalities view any life experience in a much more negative way and feel that they are unable to cope with situations. They feel that their external agencies have control of what happens to them and that isn't worth anything trying to become more powerful because they won't get there. They give up easily and don't see any value in trying to change what's happening around them. Now we get to the final bit, I hope, because this is going on too long, so I'm going to try and skip out some of this, and if I didn't keep talking pointless crap. Anyway, stress management. First we'll get to the physiological approach. Drug treatment. They work in two ways. They slow down the activity of the central nervous system, and anti-anxiety drugs named benzodiazepines, I think that's how you say it, increase the body's reaction to its own natural anxiety, relieving chemical GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, you don't need to know that, which slows down the activity in neurons and makes us feel relaxed. Or, number 2, they reduce the activity of the sympathetic nervous system. The SNS increases heart rate, blood pressure, and levels of hormone cortisol. High levels of cortisol can make our immune system weak and also cause heart disease. This group of drugs is named beta blockers. Biofeedback is another way. There are 4 steps involved. The person is attached to a machine that monitors and gives feedback on internal physical processes such as heart rate, blood pressure, or muscle tension. And my leg has got pins and needles. They are then taught how to control these symptoms of stress through a variety of techniques. This can include progressive muscle relaxation, where muscle groups are tense and relaxed in turn until the whole body is relaxed. And this teaches people to notice when their body is becoming tense. Other techniques include actively clearing the mind using meditation or breathing control exercises. This feeling of relaxation acts like a reward and encourages the person to repeat this as an involuntary activity. The person learns to use the activities in real life events. Now finally, exercise is another physiological method of managing stress. Number 1, exercise and being physically active reduces the likelihood of stress-related illnesses. It's been proven by things. Morris in 1953 compared bus conductors and bus drivers and found that the conductors had lower rates of cardiovascular problems. Number 3, this could be the result of having a more active job or the stress of driving. Number 4, or it could be caused by any number of other variables. And number 5, however, it is difficult to get a clear idea of the relationship because active people may be less likely to engage in harmful behaviours, such as smoking and drinking. Active people are likely to sleep better, which will have both a physiological and a psychological influence on the effects of stress. Right, now I'm going to get to the evaluations of all these physiological methods. Right, both drugs and biofeedback are quite effective. Drugs are quick and effective, reducing dangerous symptoms such as high blood pressure, and Carnatel found that benzodiazepines were superior to a placebo when they tracked around 250 patients over an 8-week period. And Antancio et al. Found that biofeedback helped teenagers and children with stress-related disorders to gain control over the symptoms of migraine headaches. They also showed an increase in enthusiasm and a more positive attitude. Yes! But both treat symptoms rather than the underlying causes of stress. Drugs only help with the symptoms, and so only as long as the drugs are being taken will these symptoms change. And biofeedback only aims to reduce symptoms, but using relaxation techniques can also give the person a sense of control and have a more long-lasting effect. Drugs have side effects, biofeedback doesn't. Drugs can have minor side effects such as dizziness and tiredness, or more serious effects such as blurred vision and changes in sex drive. Whoa. Withdrawal symptoms when people come off medication such as increased anxiety, seizures, tremors, and headaches can be distressing. Benzodiazepines can be addictive and are generally limited to a maximum of 4 weeks use. There are no side effects of biofeedbacks, just relaxation. This method's advantage is that it's voluntary and not invasive. Drugs are easy to use than biofeedbacks. Drugs are relatively easy to prescribe and use. Biofeedbacks need specialist equipment and expert supervision. Some argue that the benefits of biofeedback could be gained from other relaxation techniques. So this is an unnecessary expense. Please be the last page. It is the last page. Yes! Coping with stress can be problem-focused or emotion-focused. Problem-focused techniques. These techniques involve making a plan about how to cope with a stressful experience and then following the plan. For example, a person who feels stressed at work could decide to apply for new jobs until they get a new, less stressful job. Emotion-focused techniques. These techniques involve adapting both behaviour and cognitive processing to reduce stress. For example, if you're facing a week of exams, you might decide to go out and watch a film to prevent yourself from having to think about all the work, which is what I do, and I can't say I'd blame you if you did. However, the problem with this type of technique is that the stressor still remains, and it isn't an effective way of dealing with the situation in the long term. Specific methods such as SIT and hardiness training focus on adapting the cognitive process. One of these is cognitive behavioural therapy, which aims to alter thought processes. CBT techniques were developed to treat abnormality using concepts from the cognitive approach. The idea is that changing the way information is cognitively processed will result in a change in behaviour. These techniques can be used in stress management. By changing the way we think in stressful situations, we can cope better and behave in ways that help to minimise or remove the stressor. And also the SIT and hardiness training. Mackenbaum stress inoculation training, which is also known as SIT. This works like immunisation. Just like you might be inoculated against any attack from disease, you can protect yourself from the harmful effects of stress. Training involves preparation so you can deal with stress before it becomes a problem. 3 steps are involved. Conceptualisation, identifying fears and concerns with the help of the therapist. Number 2, skill acquisition and rehearsal. Train to develop skills like positive thinking and relaxation in order to improve self-confidence. And finally, application and follow-through. Practice the newly acquired skill in real-life situations with support and backup from a therapist. And finally, the last thing I'm going to do on this stress topic is hardiness training. Kobayashi Korbasta suggests that a strong and hardy person shows 3 C's: control over their lives, commitment, a sense of purpose in life, and challenge. Life is seen as a challenge and opportunities rather than a threat. Maddie introduced a training program to increase hardiness, arguing that the more hardy the person, the better they cope with stress. This training has 3 steps. Focusing. Learn to recognize physical symptoms of stress, e.g. increase in heart rate, increased perspiration, increased cheese. I don't know. You know the things, guys. Number 2, relieving stressful encounters. Learn to analyze stressful situations to better understand possible coping techniques. And finally, self-improvement. Take on challenges that can be coped with and build confidence, thereby gaining a greater sense of control. Right, guys, that's it for this first episode of Psychology 101. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you can stand half an hour thing. This is a really long topic. If you want me to continue on with this, leave a comment in the comment section below or send me a private message on Facebook, seeing as though it's my friends that are probably going to be watching this and no one on YouTube. Leave any questions in the comment section below asking me about any of this topic, because I kind of went really quickly, and if you get confused, send me a private message asking if you need any help. Also, double check everything I've said, because like I said, all I'm doing is reading from the textbook with a bit of some crap comedy that's not very good, and I'm only doing this because I've been peer pressured into doing this, and I guess it is good revision. Anyway, this is Geezer from Team K8 wishing you a good day, and thank you for watching the first episode of Psychology 101. Stay tuned for another episode soon, which will be on the topic of, I think it will probably be psychopathology, because that is the topic we're doing at the moment. This is Geezer from Team K8 signing off, and I do hope you have a good day.